Hey everyone, Jason Emerson here with Making Music. Today I will be talking with Alto Key, an independent London-based artist and the winner of Making Music's Spring 2020 Community Video Viewers' Choice Award for his song and video Burning Up, which I love and is stuck in my head currently. Now, Alto started releasing music in 2018. He has released a number of singles and EPs. He's been played on various radio stations, podcasts. He's won awards. And in addition to all of this original music, he loves to make silly jingles over TikTok, where he has amassed over 366,000 fans and over 6 million likes while he's making musical, comedy, and quirky videos, which I also love. And I can't wait to talk about everything. You're just so, you kind of make me tired. It seems like you work so hard on all of this.
I'm just very quick at doing everything. I don't have time to like breathe. It's fine. Yeah, who needs to breathe nowadays? Who needs sleep? Nobody needs sleep. It's
exactly.
Okay.
We don't need to sleep. Exactly. All right. Well, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for submitting your video. Thank you so much for being here with us on our show on Making Music. Congratulations. You won by an astounding margin over the other videos, which is great.
Well, that's cool. Thanks a lot for taking my entry.
Absolutely. Now, before we get to the video, I just wanted to talk a little bit about kind of, what's your background, a little bit of your musical background, education, and kind of your personal journey to where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people assume that I went the conventional route of, studied music and some kind of school or something like that. For me, I actually did maths at university, so nothing to do with any of the music stuff. But from I guess when I was like a teenager, I really started getting into playing keyboard and piano. It was a really good outlet for me, just with everything, in terms of, I don't know, school, and just I was probably more of one of the quiet kids at school. And I don't know, there's something nice about scrolling away and playing some piano. Yeah. But then I guess when it came to what should I do for studying or for a job, I was kind of oh, well, maybe I'll go down more of a, I guess, sensible path. But as soon as I came out of university, I was like, well, I've done the maths degree. I'm doing the music stuff now. So.
And do you do music full time, or do you have as most of us artists do you have a day job and then that pays the bills, and then you get to indulge your passion when you're not working?
Yeah, at the moment there's the split, and full time I do coding things, which I think is kind of an interesting link. A lot of people say that there's a lot of relationships between maths and patterns and computing, and then the music side of things, which are also kind of pattern based. And there's a lot of technology stuff that I obviously use in making my music, in terms of, remote working, in terms of using digital audio workstations, things like that. So I think from that point of view, it all just kind of works together. But for now, at least, the music thing isn't my full-time thing, but maybe one day, I don't know, we'll see.
You never know.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've been having so much fun looking through all of your social media stuff. And as I mentioned briefly, now after seeing your video and doing all this research, I am a fan. I follow your Instagram page now and your YouTube channel and everything. And one of the memes on there that you posted is a question that I have to ask for people might think the same thing. What is an alto key?
Yeah, so for me at the time, it's really hard to find an original name. And I was just thinking that I literally thought for maybe 3 or 4 months, just what am I going to call this musical project that I'm doing? My actual name, Kian, is way too hard to spell. It's got 3 vowels in it for some reason. I don't know what's going on. And I was kind of okay, let's start off with calling it Alto in terms of the first letter being A, so that I could be right at the top of everybody's music playlists and libraries.
Smart. Very smart.
Secondly, it was one of the only things that was available. It's so hard to get a social media name now, which isn't just taken or so. Right. That was another thing. It's also kind of alternative Kian is kind of Alto Key, alternative Kian. It's kind of a similar, kind of my alternative side is my Alto Key. Mm-hmm. And it's obviously quite easy to spell and say. It's 3 syllables. So it all just kind of worked. There's loads of different reasons. Oh, it's a musical pun as well, because, you got keys of music. Right. You've got an alto key. So it's multi-layered, the decision. But at this point, you were sort of mentioning just before we jumped into this, people just think I'm called Alto, and I just kind of run with it, and I kind of love it because it separates my music life from my non-music life. Because anyone who knows me from the music background, they just say, "Hi, Alto, how's it going, Alto?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm called Alto. I'll go with that."
No, that's really smart though, to start it with the letter A so that you are at the top of everyone's playlist. That's actually a great tip.
I'm just going to change your magazine now to being Aching Music Mag.
Exactly. I will, you know what? I'm going to bring that up at our next meeting. I think that's a good idea. So you've released a lot of EPs and singles, and but Burning Up, which is the song and video that won our award, I love it. It's so much fun. It's happy. Every time I watch it, it just brightens my day. It's an animated video, which obviously we've had on our site, and we'll have that accompanies this interview and article. But you know, one thing I love about this is I feel like the message of the song is that you need to break out of your prison, set yourself free, and just follow your dreams. I don't know if I got that correct or not, but you know, tell us kind of a little bit about how and why you wrote the song.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's your interpretation. That's right. So like, I don't want to like ruin how you interpret the song.
Right.
For me personally, when I wrote it, it's like, yeah, following your dreams, I guess, is like quite a key part of it. But it's also kind of, we get caught up in this rat race, and we kind of get caught up in, you know, maybe doing stuff we don't always want to do, like, especially from like, not just job point of view, but just like life decisions as well. And it's just kind of about trying to like recenter people that you should follow what you really want to do, and don't let other people and other circumstances take that away from you, because you've only got one life to live. So let's make it count, and let's not burn up doing the things that we don't want to do, you know?
Right.
So I think we definitely got those themes across in the music video. I feel like in terms of the music video itself, I don't know if you'll talk about this in a second or whatever, but yeah, it shows a few different like key themes about people's personal lives and how they then kind of snap at different moments, and then they like decide, that's it, I'm changing everything up. And I kind of felt like, even when I was writing the song, I didn't even, you know, I hadn't thought about a music video or anything like that. But I kind of find when I'm writing music, I often have like, what would the music video for this thing be as I'm writing it? And even then I was having like very like visual information in terms of, there's people who are just snapping at some point in their lives, and they just suddenly just do everything they want to do, and they just kind of say screw it to everything, you know? And that was kind of like the message I wanted to put forward, at least with the song.
And I love it, yeah, because you have, you know, someone at work, someone, a woman getting married to a husband who yells at her and screams, and she breaks free, and all the various little vignettes and I love that it's animated and the characters are animals. How did you, when you were envisioning this as you wrote the song, were you thinking of animals, or did the animator, whose, I'm sorry, name I forgot to write down to give him proper credit, did he come up with this, or was this kind of a joint idea to create the way you created the video?
So yeah, it was the video was animated by David G. Burns, who's an animator who lives in London as well. And we found each other through the TikTok stuff, to be honest. I found he was already following me on there, and I was kind of, oh, he's already following me. I think he's got quite a cool, very unique animation style. So we sort of connected, had chats about like the projects and kind of what I wanted to do with it. But in terms of some of the visuals, I definitely had some of those ideas. I wasn't thinking about it in terms of animals, if that's what you're saying. I always think about it in terms of like personal experiences and real life experiences. If I had like the biggest budget in the world, you know, you could definitely do a similar sort of thing that was based with like real life actors, and you see how that would sort of work. But if anything, it kind of adds to the fun and like the energy of it, that it is kind of cartoony, and it is kind of like just so different from, you know, conventional musicians playing instruments in a music video. We really wanted to tell a story with it. In terms of the designs and the animation and the decisions there, that was definitely like a collaborative process. I obviously had a very clear idea in terms of, I wanted to have somebody who was like in a job they didn't want to do, lose it at that point and snap. And I remember looking at my notes that I sent to the music producer I worked with on the song. And even in the notes for those, I'd mentioned at the time, if it was a music video, there'd be like a gorilla jumping on a table of like a busy office or something. I don't know what it was, but it just like, so we felt like carrying through some of those ideas that went into the original song, but then made it completely animated and completely like I think where David came in with his ideas was kind of giving us ideas of maybe where to change scenes and where to kind of like expand upon some of the ideas I already had, and also give his mark to it. Because one of the things when I'm working with people, I like people to have their own creative vision and process as well. Like I don't want to just be like, oh, David, animate this thing in this way and this thing in this way and this thing. So from that point of view, I was kind of like, look, here's the general story. It's got to have these elements in it, but have fun with it and let's see where we get to it, and then we can iterate and improve it. So that was kind of like a general collaboration process, I'd say, on it.
That's great. So now all of your videos, excuse me, that I've watched have been really great. They've got really great quality and professional quality. And I also love, and we're talking about Burning Up, but I have to say I love the song and the video for Colorless as well. Very different song, you know, much more melancholy, really heart-wrenching, and the video is just so full of emotion. And was that a similar thing? Do you have, you know, production crew? Do you do this in your apartment? Or obviously COVID is a part of things as well, but.
Yeah, no, I mean, the budget for that one was £0. Technically you can say, you know, the camera equipment and lighting was something in terms of the budget, but you can see literally right behind me, this is where it was filmed, literally like
really?
Right there. Yeah, and this area here is where I put up a green screen, like a yellow screen, to like shoot the camera against. But the best investment, I mean, for like independent musicians or other people watching this, I guess, who are interested in doing this sort of thing, the best investment you can make is like a really good camera and like lens. So that's like Colorless is an example of that, where we didn't actually work with a director. We did look at the time, we were thinking, oh, should we work with directors? Should we reach out? And that can work in some cases. But for me, I was kind of like, do you know what? Let's do it ourselves and really just put the raw energy. And we did that all in maybe like an afternoon on a weekend at some point. Really? And we just kind of set up everything and we storyboarded it out. And yeah, I think that one, it's weird because that one, without any budget, I think people really enjoy that one.
Yeah.
But I think it's because, as you mentioned, it was so raw and emotional and it was just real. It wasn't like,
absolutely.
I think if I'd gone to a production team, we could have made something massive or, yeah, but I think it almost would have made it like not very humble and kind of real, if that makes sense. I think that almost how like, not sloppy, it's not, I don't like downplay it. I think it's pretty good at least, but you know, I think it's about the kind of rough and readiness of it is also which complements the message of that song as well.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was showing one of my colleagues that video, and he said, is this a community video artist? Because it's so well produced, all of your videos. And I said, yeah, absolutely. I know. We got lucky. He submitted to us. It's so great. Because you never know. A lot of the videos we get are fantastic, and a lot of them are, you know, the best that people can do. Sometimes the best artists can do is, you know, something on your phone, which, as we all go through that and try to get to where we can be as artists. But no, very impressive. Now, you know, and as I said, the lyrics for very different between Colorless and Burning Up. And you describe on your website that your lyrics are you call them emotive and melancholy, typically, which I think a lot of your songs are. So how do you go through your songwriting process? How do you come up with these songs?
In terms of like, when I'm writing songs, it usually comes from like personal experiences. And in terms of like, how do I write it for an audience? It's some sort of balance between, I want to tell some personal stories and I want to kind of like mix that with what do I think people like, and in terms of what are they going to relate to, because there's always a fine balance between making art that you want to make and balancing it up with what is it that people want to hear. Because if I go down one route and I just make everything that people want to make, it's very commercial and it's very like no real raw story or emotion behind it. If I go down the route of, here's me, I live in London and I'm a white 26-year-old guy, it's very like not very relatable to lots of people. And I always come somewhere in the middle. And I always try to, for example, in some of my latest songs in particular, I'm careful to, for example, I try to avoid pronouns because I want people, wherever their gender or sexuality or whatever, you know, their background is, that they can just relate to a good story independent of my experiences. So there's elements of that go into the songwriting process, but at the end of the day, the main thing I'm trying to make when I'm making a good song is making something that people want to listen to again and again. that's always kind of like the aim.
So have you been, you've started, releasing music in 2018. Have you been, writing songs and everything since you started playing piano in high school, as you mentioned before? Or did you really start that relatively recently?
In terms of like songwriting stuff, I started that, when I was like 16, and there were some really rubbish like songs that I wrote, but it's kind of like, the more you do it, the better you get it, I guess.
Right.
And in some ways, it's not even like, sometimes I think back, I'm like, oh, but I'm making the same kind of stuff that I was making a few years ago. But it's just the little like refinements and the little iterative process, because the more songs you release, the more you eventually just start realizing, oh, that was that thing that people didn't like about that thing, or that was that thing that people did like about that thing. And they're all kind of feeding into a better and better creative process. So even though I've been writing since I was 16, I always feel like the current year I'm in, I'm like, oh yeah, it's the best work I've ever made. Last year, that was good. But this year, like last year was a 7 out of 10. This year is an 8 out of 10. Next year's gonna be a 9 out of 10. 2 years time, 11 out of 10. So that's always like, it's always about like going in like a positive forward direction, I think. And this year in particular, what I've really tried to hone in on is, whilst I'm very proud of the songs I've made last year, and I think they were trying to make a very big sound, I'm trying to almost be more intimate and personal rather than necessarily having a massive sound, because I think people relate to a song regardless of whether it's really well produced or regardless of whether it's like massive. Some of the best songs out there sound like they're recorded on a toaster. Do you know what I mean? So it doesn't necessarily mean that the best produced music or the best kind of like budget, even when it comes to the video and stuff, it's not always the best budget. You could do a good video on your phone. Absolutely. It's all about the story you're trying to tell, and it's all about, are you connecting with your audience? And that is this year my goal with the music I'm making. It's much more lo-fi and it's much more bedroom pop, I would describe it as, and it's all about connecting with everyone in this kind of post-coronavirus / still going in the middle of coronavirus kind of world,
Right. I like that. Bedroom pop. I like that. Did you just coin that right now? I've never heard that.
I don't think I coined it, but we can definitely pretend like I coined it. I'll take the credit for that. It's fine. Yeah.
Now, you, as I mentioned at the top, you are indefatigable, posting on social media, promoting yourself as you must as an artist, and your TikTok channel is incredible. And so it seems like obviously I'm assuming you must post every day, or do you have a set schedule on how you do that? Or
I have a schedule, but usually it's me and my partner who kind of acts somewhat like my manager a little bit, and we'll sit down the Sunday usually and just come up with a whole schedule of stuff for the week to do alongside everything else I'm doing. Otherwise I'd go insane if I had to do it every single day and think what I'm going to do today, So we try to schedule it and fit things in. And in terms of like, how do we like do those videos, maybe like 3 to 5 times a week, but it's very hard with TikTok. I don't know if, sort of you've used it much yourself in terms of like posting, for example, but it can sometimes be very hit and miss. So yeah, it's always like an improvisation and kind of improvement sort of thing, because I guess it's true for any social media, but you have to keep getting better and keep trying to do different things. The sort of content I'm making now is so different to what I was making a few months ago, which is so different to what I made a few months before that. So it's just very much like an improvement kind of process,
Right. Yeah, one of my favorite things, I laughed so hard when I saw the Ultimate Vegan song.
Vegan food can be pretty good, but you know what's not? Being a dingleberry.
Oh.
And I'm just curious, personally, where did that come from?
So there was this, I don't usually, in terms of like my presence online and stuff, I'm usually like very positive, and I don't like to try and, people do their own thing, but there was one TikToker in particular, who I won't mention their name, but they make like lots of content promoting veganism, and myself, I make a very good effort to try and have a very sort of high plant-based diet. But they made like lots of videos which were going almost a bit too far, and it's kind of a bit borderline pushy or controversial, and it's basically a parody of one of their songs. So if anybody who's listening to it who knows that vegan teacher, they'll know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it was a parody of one of their songs. And but yeah, it's kind of weird, you know, like in terms of the brands, in terms of stuff we always try to put out. We always try to put out like positivity and, you know, an uplifting message. But sometimes I do like poking fun at myself, or maybe sometimes other people, but rarely.
Right. And then I noticed every once in a while you'll have a post on there talking about how grateful you are for your fans, and I sense a little bit, as all artists have, every once in a while, a little bit of self-doubt, and you love that your fans are there to support you and help you get through that. You know, what would you say, you know, your advice to people who want to get to where you are with, you know, you've got a huge presence, you've got songs released on the radio, winning awards, and you're clearly, in my opinion, you're clearly on an upward trajectory in your musical career. You know, what do you say to people who want to try to emulate what you're doing?
I think, like, don't emulate what I'm doing a little bit, like in terms of, you got to find your own path and find what works for you. A lot of people try to jump between, like, oh, that thing's working for that person, I'm gonna try that thing. Oh, that's not working, I'm gonna try that thing. There is an element of that, and don't get me wrong, I'm always trying to improve and innovate and like see what's working and compare what I'm doing a little bit to what other people are doing. But in general, I do try to just stay in my own lane and kind of like slowly grow, because you know, like, whilst I've got to where I am like now, there's still a long way to go, one, but also two, there's been a lot of time where I haven't had progress, and there's a lot of time where things have just kind of stagnated, or so it's always about improving and like understanding that you are making, like, I was speaking to somebody else about this before, and it's not downplaying music whatsoever. Like, I obviously I'm a musician, I absolutely love making music, music's my world, but you have to also ground yourself very often and be like, we're making entertainment for people to enjoy, and we need to cater for an audience, right? And there are going to be people out there who just sort of do their own thing. I make what I want to make and it works. But I'd say for most people, you're catering for an audience. So it's about finding who your audience is and then just catering to that audience again and again and again. Give them the value that they want. So for anyone who's up and coming and doesn't know what they're doing, find yourself, discover who you want to be, what you want to do, and just do that stuff, and then just keep improving upon it, rather than try to be like, how can I hack this social media algorithm, or how can I hack that social media algorithm? Because social media is always going to change, right? But your personality and branding, that is you. So you need to invest in that. I don't know if that kind of like makes sense, or was that just waffly?
Absolutely. No, that makes total sense. Yes. So what do you have on in your plans for the rest of this year, as far as where you're going to take your music and your career?
Well, I'm going to keep doing the like indie, as I sort of mentioned a little bit earlier, the indie pop kind of lo-fi sort of stuff, rather than maybe some of the massive songs I was making last year with string orchestras and things. Doesn't mean I don't care about them as much. It's just like a different approach. And I think the feedback so far I've had for the first song I've released this year is people really like the change. And I think people are connecting with it more in some ways. As well as that, I mean, it's going to sound a bit nerdy and boring, but I'm really starting to invest more time into understanding like how to improve my Spotify, because whilst I've got the social media stuff like maybe sorted out a little bit, it's about understanding how do I actually find maybe more of the music fans, because some of my social media following enjoys my silly content, but they don't necessarily know that I make proper music. So it's about getting a bit more of that balance, right? Whereas last year it was definitely all about let's make loads of silly jingles and not even necessarily worry about that aspect of it. But now it's about like, how do I make the silly jingles, make the good music, and then put them together? You know, that's always really hard, because the more you don't want to plug yourself too much, but you don't want to go too far down the route of, oh, I just make silly content and people don't take me seriously as an artist because of that. So there's always like a fine line I'm trying to balance between, I want to be stupid, I want to have fun doing what I'm doing, but I also really deeply care about the music I make, and I really want to get that out there, but not in a really pluggy kind of way. I don't want to be telling people every 2 seconds, you should go stream, link in bio. By the way, have you checked out the music, link in bio? Do you know what I mean?
Right. And your newest song, your newest release is Sync, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very, very powerful song. You know, I listened to that and watched, you know, just the photo of you in the bathtub, kind of overwhelmed with life, with, you know, everything. And it's incredibly powerful. So I definitely encourage all of our readers and viewers to check out all of your stuff. And so all of your content, okay, my computer's not working. There we go. You have, as I said, an amazing platform for all you do. And, you know, thank you so much for being with us. This has been really fascinating. And I'm really glad that you submitted your video and were able to visit with us today. And as I mentioned, your newest single, Sync, is available on all music platforms, as are all of your videos, your EPs, your singles. So anybody who is interested in Alto Key, check him out on his website, altokey.com, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Did I miss anything?
Just everywhere is the same.
Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Honestly, like, I really appreciate, and I think a lot of independent artists really appreciate you put time into promoting up and coming artists, because it's really hard to get your name and what you're doing out there. So thank you. Like, this is a pleasure.